Ready. Standing by.
Light it up.
This is Captain Cassian Andor, Rebel Intelligence.
There's spies everywhere.
Cassian Andor. I need all the heroes I can get.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
We're so fat and satisfied.
10 men feel like 100. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
A 6-year-old boy.
Hang on!
Hello and welcome to Andor and More, a show about the show Andor on Disney Plus. And I think the more this week was a little short, cute Studio Ghibli animated film. I'm Travis Fishburne. And joining us, our special guest this week is honored guest PLD. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me. I was just telling you guys backstage, I'll tell everybody watching, I would like this opportunity. I used to have a Star Wars show, stopped having a Star Wars show. So this gives me an excuse to come back to the galaxy far, far away, whether it be a thrilling political thriller or the very soft teddy bear like short we got yesterday, or the day before. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we are glad to have you. And this week we are covering episode 10 of Andor, One Way Out. And what a climactic episode following this little arc that we've been on in the prison it was. And so PLD, what has been your experience with Andor thus far, and how have you felt about the series?
I could spend a half an hour just on that alone. It's interesting to me. I think that Andor probably right now is the best written, best produced, best everything TV show we've had set in the Star Wars universe. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure it's the best Star Wars show because I do feel like sometimes there's a little something missing. I like to say it's a little bit of that whimsy adventure we kind of get missing from. This one's kind of much more of a browbeater every week. Besides that, it is a phenomenal TV show, phenomenal character work. I mean, give Stellan Skarsgård, give Andy Serkis, give them all the Emmys. And Diego Luna's doing well as well. I do love the show overall. I'm loving this format of the arcs. I wasn't quite used to it the first three. I'm kind of like, okay, slow burn. We got the third one. Okay. Now I'm kind of getting into this whole so I know the kind of rhythm we're going for a little bit here and there. And then we ended the last episode with the no more than 12 line that everybody got pumped up about. And we knew this was going to be the big culmination of this arc. I love going with that now. I feel like we're in the rhythm of it, where we weren't maybe quite in the rhythm of it before. Now we're in the rhythm of it. And I do feel like this is amazing. I'm looking forward to getting past this and getting some more like Mandalorian-esque adventure. Mm-hmm. But I just love that we're in a place where we can have Star Wars, so many different types of Star Wars. We can have this really adult, mature, rhythmic Star Wars and have the fun, whimsy, adventure Star Wars. All of them very Star Wars and very at its core, sharing the same tenets that a Star Wars story should have. The fight between good and evil, oppression and tyranny, and also spirituality as well, in different formats, from the Jedi versus like somebody like a Kino who is fighting from this like beaten down place where he kind of finds his spirit from our main guy there, Cassian, to get where he's going. It's all one big blanket of Star Wars. It's just different parts of the blanket.
Yeah. What a big fuzzy comfy blanket it is.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. And is like a great series thus far and a great into this arc, we can assume it's the end of this arc. I think the last two episodes are going to be their own kind of arc in and of themselves.
Yes, that's what I was hearing. So
I was surprised with this episode that I thought it was going to be similar to how episode 6 was, where 6 was all we really saw was everything going down with the heist. And I thought this one might be the same way, as far as just like, we're going to keep you locked into the prison, similar to how Game of Thrones would do that with their big battles. They would just keep you locked in with just like this location and these characters. So I was surprised that we jumped around as much as we did. And the other scenes that we got, like with Mon Mothma, for instance, were, equally is impactful, I would say.
Easily.
Because we can jump into, I would say, the other aspects. We can start with the Mon Mothma stuff, where she's meeting with a guy who's gonna, launder her money for her. And she insists on paying, and he's like, no. I don't want payment. I want my son to meet your daughter. And it's very much implied that they're going to do an arranged Chandrilan style marriage, which
House the Dragon Andor style, basically.
Yes, exactly.
No, I like this a lot. I would say I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty of this, but I noticed Genevieve O'Reilly hasn't gotten a lot of love this week comparatively, because obviously Andy Serkis had the tour de force performance. Stellan Skarsgård had the great, I'm going to get to that, his great monologue, great performance as well. But Genevieve O'Reilly's moment was actually more subtle, but like that look where he leaves, after he leaves, where she's like throwing him out, and he says whatever, like, that's the first lie you've told all day. The look on her face and like the acting, just facial acting alone was heartbreaking. It was like, we really feel what she's going through. And I really think that I can't wait to see more from her. So I think she's a great character in Star Wars lore in general, one of our few really connecting characters to the overall lore. So I love watching her develop behind the scenes like that, considering we don't know a whole lot about her. When you think about like how much she's meant to the Star Wars saga, obviously Return of the Jedi, Rebels, things like that. All we really know is that she led the Alliance, became the the chancellor later on through the books. That's about it. That's all we really knew. So getting some background for her
early on in this season, when they were introducing her, every episode with Mon Mothma, it was like, oh, she's the husband, kid.
Right. Exactly. Oh. Absolutely. And I also think it's interesting that we see her in a much different light, at least I do, this series, because she's always been kind of shown as just very forward, very confident, very, take charge kind of person. And in this, you kind of see more of the cracks underneath, the worry that she has, that she's maybe not as sure as herself as she kind of puts forth to people. She's definitely got a lot more layers than we knew. And I'm loving that we're getting this background for her.
Yeah. And Stellan Skarsgård, Luthen is kind of forcing her hand, just in the same way that he is forcing the Empire to show how awful they are. He is also forcing her to be like, okay, yeah, I got to take this. All right, I'll just like you, I will give up everything, Luthen, for this.
Luthen's forcing everybody's hand, it seems, in one way or another at this point. He doesn't give a, he doesn't care. This is it. It's all going down, which is another funny aspect to me, because I don't know if you guys have read the Legends books at all from back in the day. I kind of thought Luthen was going to be the Garn Belly Bliss type character, because they kind of cherry picked some characters from Legends. He was in the Thrawn trilogy towards the end. He was the guy who, he was a senator from Corellia, and they gave a little bit of a background that he was around at the same time Mon Mothma was, but they had kind of some ideological differences and they split off. And he was away and had his own little armada, but it never really amounted to anything compared to the rebellion, the Rebel Alliance. So after the war was over, and then all of a sudden they started going back, she got this other battle, she kind of needed him, and they kind of found each other, and he saved the day a little bit. And it was kind of this nice little fudgy political thing where he's like, he had a lot of ego. He wanted to be asked back by Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma didn't want to ask him back. It was one of those kind of standoffs. So they had this moment where they looked at each other, and Bella Bliss like kind of gave it and said, you don't have to ask me. I'm ready to help. And he sent his armada in. But it kind of like had this background. I thought that it was going to be this kind of like ideological differences going sideways. But now Luthen's a lot more hardcore than Well, at least seem to be. So maybe it might still be a germ of truth in there. Yeah, definitely. Just a little more darker. Luthen's definitely a little more darker. Maybe fits the tone of the show better though, for sure.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh yeah.
It was.
That's the best thing from Stellan has had every episode or this whole season. It's when crap goes down and he'll have that moment where he screams one word. All I need is like one word and like gotta get your attention. Like, okay, I'm gonna go die for you now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Oscar Isaac and Rise of Skywalker didn't get that many great lines. Is that what you're trying to put forth there? Fair. No, not at all. Right. 100%. Fully agree. Fully agree. And it's great that we get that because we have the great actors to do so. And I love the fact, quite frankly, I'm sure you guys maybe mentioned this before, but the fact that we didn't know Andy Serkis was in this until he all of a sudden appeared, like that didn't really, it wasn't really put forth. I mean, I guess I heard afterwards it was leaked. I read it somewhere, but I had to go deep diving. It didn't make the big, didn't make the big waves that sometimes the leaks do. But when I heard Andy Serkis' voice, I'm like, oh, and also I knew like this is a character I'm gonna need to watch because he's a solid actor. I want to see what he's gonna do. And sure enough, this is the what an arc he had. This whole like it's amazing when you think how far he went over 3 episodes, and it doesn't feel like it was rushed at all. Like that's amazing to me. Like he made that big of a change in 3 episodes, but it felt perfectly like okay, it felt perfectly on par.
Mm-hmm.
So good, so good.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the good thing. Maybe that's the good thing about bouncing. Maybe that's the good thing about bouncing back and forth.
Shaking the way we saw one of the prisoners do right before their shift started. It's like I love they were like throwing the tools at all the guards up top. That's all they had. It's just like now coming to me. It reminds me a little bit of like Fritz Lang's Metropolis and the revolution that all the workers have.
Oh, it didn't pass my mind, but now that you mention it, yeah, absolutely, I get that.
Yeah.
I would say it reminded me a little bit of Planet of the Apes, not just those Andy Serkis and everything. Andy Serkis with the attack just felt like I was watching the 4th Planet of the Apes movie or something like that.
It is like that too.
Prisoners. No, God. I was just going to use some kind of, I can even remember this apes are for everyone or whatever. I can't remember the line now.
We did. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
In IMDb, the guy who does the voice is credited as the voice of God. That's what it says.
That's funny.
But ironically, when Andy Serkis speaks into it, he just has like the gravitas. It just like has the Andy Serkis voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Mhm.
monotone. Yes. Oh yeah, I love the fact that how it builds. Like, I like the fact that he's so hesitant. He's so hesitant to it, but like the point where he gets it and like it turns to overdrive is when he turns and is like 100 men, 200 men were fried, and like you're like that was a little bit of Gordon Ramsay kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it did turn into that also, and that's when like he was like, okay, I'm all in now, and I'm going to make sure we all get out as best we can, because he needs Cassian to kind of pump him up at first. And I got cool. I thought it was a cool angle because like here's a guy who's changing his whole life. I mean, this is what he's been. I mean, he only had 217 shifts left or whatever it was, so he's been there for a while, right? This has been his life, and this is like change comes very slow to some people, and especially this kind of change where like, I don't know what the hell is going on, and he's got to be thinking in the back of his head the famous can't swim, so he must be thinking of that because he knows there's no way out beyond for him at that point. Does he think there's a ship just hanging out waiting for him there? Or, I don't. He's got to know, right? So, right. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact you can use the monologue as like a sort of like it's a mini view of his arc overall. Like it starts off one way and gets the other. Like even earlier in the episode, like the very beginning of the episode, he's still kind of, despite his ending on no more than 12, he's still not sold. He still has to get pushed into a little bit. And you kind of see him, like you kind of see the changes going through them while Cassian's talking, everybody's talking. He's like not saying a whole lot. And all of a sudden he gets to that point where he has that big, like, no one is getting out. And it's like, okay, all right, there's Andy Serkis. That's why you hire Andy Serkis in there, because it's fired for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
he found a Imperial uniforms wearing
exactly. Like I'm like, that's something we often see in Star Wars is taking an Imperial uniform and wearing it.
When in doubt, they're going to be just want to get out at that point. So,
Well,
what Andor says, right? They don't even look
I
at
think
it.
Given that this season is supposed to take place over the first year of leading up to Rogue One and A New Hope, and the next season is going to take place over the course of like 4 years.
4 years, yeah. Each arc is supposed to take place in a year. I guess to be like arc year bouncing. So I almost would guarantee we will see Andy Serkis next season at some point.
There's going to be like you're not going to expect it. He's going to like come in and help save the day in one way or the other.
Right, because there's no way they would not have shown him dying if he was going to die. That's just the way. It's just storytelling wise. I can't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That was always the rule with like Game of Thrones too. You have to show a person dying. There's still people who believe Stannis Baratheon is still alive because we never saw that.
Isn't he? Maybe.
Yeah, it might be.
No, that's right. It is what it is with him, with Andy Serkis, though. I got to say, I hope that he does. I'm actually very happy if he does come back. I got to tell you, sometimes a performer does so good, and sometimes an actor is so good in a role that, like, even if it didn't make all the sense in the world, you'd still find a way to much easier look past any logical points. You're kind of like, oh, yeah, geez, when he's coming back, hell yeah, let's do it anyway.
I mean, they did it with Darth Maul, who George Lucas definitively cut in half so that people would not speculate on him living.
Then I love they tell Dave Filoni, all right, So Maul's coming back, and Floyd's like, okay, great. How? That's for you to figure out. Great. Okay, great. So good, though. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get the monologue, though, I think one of the coolest aspects we get from Luthen's character, the character beat we get there is when he turns Anton Krieger, whoever, Krieger. He just turns him in like, no, like he's like going to let him go, whatever. He's like, also, he was just a few episodes ago pushing Saw to join up with him, that he'd make that bigger part of the rebellion. All of a sudden, first time we know this attack is happening. Well, okay, cutting him right out because 50 men aren't going to be. This guy being in the ISB is much more worth the 50 men you got on the ground. Maybe Krieger isn't as good as he thought. So, all right, boom. It's like cold, heartless, like not even a second's hesitation. It's not like, oh, well, should I? No, it's all right. He's done. Move
Let
it.
me talk this over with somebody.
Right. No, unilateral decision. Boom. Done. Yeah, that's the great character beat there. It's like, okay, you know a little bit more about Luthen now. I feel like we get touches of that every once in a while, but then like we get those moments where it's like, oh, he's actually legitimately going like, for lack of a better word, he goes dark side. Like he's dark and he doesn't care. And then he says it in the speech where he's like, I'm going to basically become my enemy to get rid of him.
So I've been forced to like use the tools of my enemy, like in this fight.
God, those words were just. I watched that speech again earlier today. I'm like, this is just so good. Just because watching him build, like the character, what are you giving up? I mean, the moment pause he takes before he like, it's like kind of like okay, deep breath before I get into this. That moment's pause, you're like, oh, this is going to go somewhere. You just done screwed up, boy. You have no idea what you're talking about. And one interesting thing, having that guy be the spy, like, we never thought about that at all. I mean, we thought maybe, I remember there's nice theories that maybe at one point they thought that Deidre might be a spy or like be the person in there, but then that kind of like was once she actually started getting into the torturing and enjoying, we're like, okay, that's probably not going to be the case. But do we still, so it's this guy we haven't really thought of, and we haven't ever gotten any breadcrumbs about him. He was just kind of hanging out there, and all of a sudden there he is. We're like, oh, okay, cool, okay. So what else do we have? What else don't we know about these people at this point? I also love the ISB in general. I'm loving it more and more. I love what we're getting. God, I'm blanking on his name. Thank you. Well, yeah, Wolfie Lauren. Love getting those beats in there. I love Lieutenant there. He's really a great actor. I don't know his name either, but he's wonderful. I like the way he delivers his dialogue in such a very old school English way that makes it sound even more intelligent than it probably is. I love getting him in there. It's a great little in-depth look at the Empire, this is the furthest. This show has given us more of a look at the Empire than any other show. And it's fascinating to watch the underbelly, levels of the Tarkins and the Vaders.
Like the real like inner workings of not just because when we think of the Empire in the movies, we think of them as just like the military might, and we see the naval, the ships and how they operate on that level. But actually, like you said, like seeing the ISB aspect of it and all the inner workings is, equally as fascinating.
It really is.
So fat and satisfied.
Yeah, I agree. Get more of the more villains to hate, which is good, but they're sticking out. They're sticking out more, so that means we can get more explorations of these things and at least some more stories. It's a way we can actually widen the mythology out even more. I'd love to see I would love to see an ISB series, or whether it be TV, animation, comic book, something. Like, it would be kind of cool to see just a certain more exploration of that angle of things. Let's get an Anto Krieger book wrote from the rebellion side of things. Like, there's so many different ways we can go. And I love the fact that we have such an open-ended world universe right now that we can dive into. Hell, I want to know more about Andor's mom, or stepmom there, or whatever, adopted mom,
Marva. Yeah.
Maria. She's not doing well, but I'd love to see the series. I would love to see a series about her adventures as a younger woman going through things. I think that she has a lot of cool things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I feel like that's getting like underrated. I think like that whole aspect almost not dropped, but like very low key comparatively. We didn't get to see. I don't know when that's going to come back into play. I wonder if it's going to come back in now that he's out of the prison.
Yeah, because they even showed her, and they showed that aspect in the previously on. Like, oh, this is the thing to watch out for. And it was a little bit of a fake out there.
I kind of like the fake out, I'm not going to lie, because it was like, oh, so maybe we're not going to see.
Yeah, I always hate seeing. I like to skip previously ons when I can, because I feel like so often it's like, all right, we're going to show you this character you haven't seen in a while. Like, all right, that aspect's coming back.
Yeah, exactly. I do wonder if we're going to get when we get more Saw also, because I want to see Saw Gerrera with Luthen. I think that's a very potent duo, and they're going to have some definitively moments coming, I feel like.
Oh yeah, like because the final image of this is we see Andor and Melshi running off in this just wasteland of like, what do they get? What's going to happen? I don't see any way where this is going to be more beneficial than where they were before. No.
Yeah, I actually love the idea. You said it best. We don't know where we're going to go. It feels like Andor is almost an anthology series by itself. It's like such a different, it's almost like its own Clone Wars series, just happens to heavily involve Andor every time. It's just little 3 different dips into where we are. It goes forward, it goes past. It's like not a completely continuous story, which is a very interesting way to take it. But it allows for a lot more too. Allows for a lot more like growth and development and things. So I had to feel like when we skipped forward like 6 months, we're kind of like, okay, so some shit probably went down at some point, but it went another direction. And I see where we are now with the rebellion, with where Andor is now and how far along the path he is. I think it's a very interesting way to do the story.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel bad to know some people, they kind of dove off after the first episode or two, were a little slow. And I kind of was like, they kind of told you it was going to be that way at first. It kind of felt like you knew what you were getting into. And I hope those people did come back and try to stick it out, because once it did get going, and I think once you hit that 3rd episode, which is why I think Disney aired those first 3 episodes right away, it was the hook. And then you're like, okay, I see where you're going. I see what you're going to do now. You kind of get into that, because you can't be at a high intensity the entire time. It doesn't work, because you can only go one level. You can't raise. It's getting that like downtime in between where you get some character development, you get some pieces of the puzzle thrown in there and build back up. And that's what makes those episode 6 and this episode so even more impactful. So it's like, here we are. I'm ready to go now. Let's do it. I've been chomping at the bit for this kind of stuff. You can't chomp at the bit the entire time.
No. You'll have no bit left.
Exactly. Nothing will have any meaning. It won't have any meaning when you get there. It's kind of okay. So we're doing more and more of the same thing, more high intensity, more action, and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And yeah, Alex, I don't think I've not brought it up on the show yet, but when he gets into prison, we see him meet Melshi, and we've not like really brought that into our discussion of the series thus far. And Melshi is a character from Rogue One that is there with him on Scarif. The beginning of the show that we have, it's him talking to Melshi on the radio, and he's a very small bit player in Rogue One. So I like that this show is going to really, I think, make him more of a player and contextualize him to the degree that when you watch this whole series and then you go back and revisit Rogue One, you're gonna be like, hey, it's that guy. And it's you're gonna remember him as a viewer way more than this just like random face rebel, just like the rest of them.
Yeah, he's going to mean a lot more that time through. And I wonder if that was part of the plan overall. Like, was it a case of, well, this guy's in Rogue One, we can kind of throw him in, or is it a case of, let's put this character in so that we can develop what we see in Rogue One? Like, I could tell, I actually would lean more towards that's what they're planning to do. Like, and I would be surprised if we get a few more of those characters as we move along, especially as it gets closer to the rebel side of things. I believe we get, obviously we're getting Alan Tudyk in season 2, they said. But like maybe some of the generals and things like that we can dig our teeth into. Maybe we'll get little glances at that. And those are the Easter eggs, if you will, as they call it, which are not really Easter eggs because a story developing, but those are the ones that make the most sense and give you the most joy out of things. It's like, okay, I see where you're going with this. I get to see where the pieces fall into place, and it just works much better. I like that.
Oh yeah, I really see that happening. And season 2, they say that they're going to go to Yavin and stuff, so I want to see him develop like a relationship with like Anton Merrick and everybody else there on the base that we see.
Odana come to play.
Yeah.
Love that. Remus Antilles, Radis even.
We can bring Radis back.
Absolutely. A lot of things you could just bring into play there. I think there's so many different places you can go.
Draven. Draven's an interesting character from Rogue One that, how he runs the show. It'd be interesting to see that develop.
Maybe we get to meet, I can't remember, luckily I'm not a showdown competitor, I'm not a trivia competitor, the name of the spy that Andor kills at the beginning of Rogue One. Maybe we'll see
that guy.
Him come into play. Tivik.
Who can remember that?
Tivik, that's it. That would be great.
Yeah.
Would love to see that. Absolutely. Why
I
not?
remember. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all mustache. It's all in the mustache anyway. So
I remember way early on when they like showed the first image of Rogue One and they showed the cast, people were trying to debate whether or not Cassian Andor himself was like Biggs because he had a bit of a mustache.
I vaguely remember that actually. Yeah. Well, we can also use it. Speaking of developing things, we can hopefully develop more of Saw's partisans too if we get more time with them a little bit, which would be nice as well. Yeah. We already got Benthic, 2 tubes there. Like as soon as we went to Saw's planet when Luthen was visiting him, we're like, oh, it's that guy. I know where we are. We're Saw at this point. So maybe even Warwick Davis will pop in as one of his as the part because he's one of the partisans. We teeth.
Yes. Okay. I mean, and they've already, I think so. They just, I was going to say, while Disney was shooting the Willow show, they're like, hey, Warwick, come over here and do some Andor episodes.
And he would. He's a Star Wars whore himself. He would love to be at the show. Any chance he can get, which is what I love about him. That's what I love about him. Like when he hosts Celebration and stuff, he just has such a genuine joy for the universe and he's like a fan and a player, and you gotta love those kind of people. You want them to succeed more and be in more because it's like us getting a shot in a way.
I really wanted, to see more of Warwick's Life's Too Short series that he did with Gervais on HBO.
Yes, he's great. He's a phenomenal guy. Huh. Sounds music.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. In the hood, back to the hood, in space, love them all. It's unfortunate. Hey, you know what? Jason X. Jason X was a great space movie.
See, Critters is ironic because that's where it should excel. Like this is where these things came from. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jason shouldn't work in space, like on paper, but yet it's phenomenal. We are talking about Halloween and Friday the 13th, Leprechaun. Yeah. Speaking of that, let's get a Star Wars horror show. Come on, let's get something Star Wars horror related. They had that one book in the day, back in the day, the Death Troopers and stuff.
Death Troopers, and then they did a Red Harvest.
Red Harvest, that's right.
Yeah.
Both these prequel to that, I guess. I'd love to see something like that. I think we can do that now. That's the great thing about where we are in Star Wars. I mean, it's tough to do horror on Disney Plus, maybe, but they did Werewolves by Night for Marvel. So let's do something like that.
I think they can. Mr. Boogedy. Like, I think they can bring it all in. I think that this show is paving the way for that. As long as this show is successful in one way or another, it opens the door for more of that.
That's a great point you bring up, because I've heard some things about the ratings of this is not quite as good as, Obi-Wan and so like that. And it makes sense to a degree. Obviously, Star Wars fans want to see Obi-Wan and Vader again, yada, yada, which I get. I loved Obi-Wan. I love Mandalorian, etc. But I do hope that this does well enough, because I feel like if this doesn't do well enough, all you're going to get is the more like stuff we've seen 1,000 times before in a way. And I love that stuff, but give me that stuff and then also give me this stuff. Give me both.
Totally.
And
sorry, go ahead, Trev.
I really think it will take off. I think really with season 2, and that they're already like shooting, and they've got a guarantor for season 2. They don't have to worry about that.
Right.
I think in the build up for season 2, and with the K2SO thing coming back, I think a lot of people are going to maybe go back and discover season 1. And I think it's going to have an effect similar to how, just like any show, this isn't going to have the longevity because it's only going to be 2 seasons, but like a Game of Thrones or like a Breaking Bad, where people catch up like when it's getting interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a good point, because what you bring up, you say that, I mean, there was an interview with Tony Gilroy, and he mentioned that he has another writer he brought on that is more Star Wars canon knowledgeable. He's more of a fan, because Tony Gilroy said point blank is like not a huge Star Wars fan. He's he's a fan of doing his story in the Star Wars universe. But bringing on another guy who knows more Star Wars, he said it's a good idea, because we are getting closer to that hook up into Rogue One, so it's got to connect more. So you're going to see more of those kind of connective tissue. We're going to get Yavin. That's what they said. He said that in his interview. We were getting K2SO, which is a part of the thing. And K2SO is one of those things that I feel like is missing from the first season of Andor, because K2SO has that kind of that humor that isn't quite as apparent in the first season of Andor, so to speak. That Star Wars humor from droids and things like that. We obviously had B2 Emo.
I was gonna say, I love B2 Emo. I just wish we had more of him. Because like the one scene we had with him in the first episode, I'm like, yeah, this guy. I
want more of that. And all of a sudden he's hanging out in his little doggy kennel there in Marco's home. But give me that. But that's the thing, we're going to get those connective tissue, which will hopefully bring some of those people who might be questionable on it, because it's not feeling quite like Star Wars or whatever, get them on board and then sink them in.
Yeah, so. I think this I think something that's going to help this show too is I think this show has been getting the best critical press of like any Star Wars show.
Easily. Easily.
And there is stock in that. I mean, I know I remember when Showtime did season 3 of Twin Peaks, and it didn't do like crazy numbers, but it got Showtime the best press they had gotten in years for like anything. So they just kept putting money into it because it was worth it to them in the end.
Well, that's the whole idea. Is you think that at least if it has the critical acclaim, that people would start looking on it for that alone. So
right, like if you build it, they will come.
Right, exactly. More people will talk about it, and more people are going to come.
Yeah, and like this is a show. I don't recommend Star Wars shows to friends of mine who don't watch Star Wars shows, because at this point, I think, you know, with Star Wars shows and Marvel shows, like you're either watching this stuff or you're not, and like you've made your choice on this train at this point. But I'm like, you know what, man, just watch Andor. Like, forget the other. I told my one friend who hasn't watched Star Wars, he's watched half of Mandalorian season 1. That's kind of it. I'm like, just watch Andor. There's so much to appreciate about Andor. It's just a great show that you would like with your interest that just happens to take place in the Star Wars universe.
Just exactly what Gilroy has been planning for. It's a sci-fi political thriller. It just happens to be in the same galaxy that Star Wars is at. And that's all it is.
Right. And it's a hard thing to pull off because historically, live action politics in Star Wars, not too interesting.
Right. Yeah, definitely had some moments in the prequels turned some people off for that reason alone. But I love me some politics in Star Wars. I think it's some of the best stuff when it's done right, especially. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So I want to see more about what's going on between the Empire and how it's slowly taking over things and where they are at this point. Because we've spent a lot of time in this time period. But again, like I said before, not to repeat myself, I feel like we're getting a lot more of that in-depth on the other side. We've got a lot on the rebellion side and that build up. This is just more interesting to me because we haven't seen this yet.
Yeah. For sure.
I would love to see. I want to figure out whether I want to see more like from the. I don't want to see Darth Vader in this, but like, do we get more from that upper echelon like connectivity from the ISB with how does that work with the Emperor and stuff?
I was gonna say like Vader, no, but like maybe Palpatine, absolutely, and Tarkin, anything of that nature. Yeah,
Krennic.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Krennic's got to come into this show.
I hope so. It'd be great because Ben Mendelsohn's a phenomenal actor also. So getting him some stuff like dialogue like this.
Yeah, getting him in an actor's show like this, like, yeah, please.
Absolutely.
And like we're talking about all these other actors, Diego Luna is doing really good work too. He's just not been given as much to chew on in big kind of showstoppy ways as other characters have in the show.
Yeah, and especially the past few episodes, he's had very sparse dialogue.
Yeah, he's observing a lot. He's doing a lot. Like he's putting in a lot of work, a lot of character work in his face and in the way he uses his body and everything. That's fantastic. But he hasn't been. I don't feel like he's been given the moments that some other actors have been given, and I'm excited for when that happens, because like he's owed a character turn. Like we're owed a turn from him.
Agreed. I think he's underrated in that aspect because of exactly what you said. He just doesn't have the flash that some of these people have had. I guess Andy Serkis doesn't have much time, but he has the flash.
Right.
He did get some stuff, a little bit more meteor stuff, and towards the beginning, he had some moments which were good. And he's doing everything he's being asked to do.
For sure.
But yeah, I think we should get something big from him. I think part of that is where he is in his journey. I feel like he's not committed to anything. It's hard to have like a big committed moment when you're not committed to it a little bit.
Right. He doesn't have a long-term, he doesn't have a long-range goal or plan or anything. Right. His vision extends to just what the next thing
survive.
Is. Yeah.
At this point, when he makes that turn, decides to join the rebellion, that's going to be the character moment for Diego Luna, I think.
Yeah,
and hopefully it's a big one. Hopefully
I'm excited to see it.
Good, dialogue he can, sink his teeth into, so to speak.
Yeah,
might be when my prediction, off the cuff, maybe when Marta is dead, maybe when she gets killed somehow,
sure,
or something like that. That might be what sinks it under.
That would make sense.
She's
to
been
me.
Getting more bold. She's been getting like inspired by things, going out and walking around and doing things that she otherwise wouldn't do. So it'd be ironic for her to
not only that.
I love that she's doing mischievous old lady shit.
Yeah.
But what was she inspired by? Arcana. So like
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like he could have that moment where Diego Luna goes, I got her killed by doing
Right.
this kind of stuff in a way. And it's a great emotional beat where you can have a lot of places where he can go before he goes to where it gets to where he's going to be by the end of season 2. He's definitely got a great journey ahead of him. It's a slow burn journey, but it's going to be a great journey when it happens.
No, agreed.
Although I got to ask you guys, does Luthen have to die during the series?
He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to, but
I think
we're probably going to give us a reason why we don't see him in a movie that exists already.
I think both from a logistical, point and just like thematically, it makes sense for him to die.
It does.
Prior to the end of the series.
I just don't want to see him go.
Yeah.
But it does make sense unless they do the Garm Billably's thing. Maybe he splits off and does his own thing, but that feels like that would be like anticlimactic or something. So
maybe everyone's pointing to, Andy Serkis and Kino becoming Snoke. Maybe Luthen becomes Snoke.
Ooh, there you go. That's the ultimate red herring, right?
Becomes so radical that
Oh man, him and what was it, Clea? I think that's one of the worst names they have in the series. It's like, wait, so you basically said Leia and just put a K in front of it?
Yeah.
I've heard every time I'm like, oh no, they said a different name.
Yeah.
Clay.
Yeah. Speaking of that, do we get to see Leia during the series at all? I mean, she's young and running around now out there.
Yeah, then they'd have to cast her again. It can't be the same girl from Kenobi. It's gonna be.
That's when Millie Bobby Brown finally gets her due. At this point.
Is that a fan request? Is that a fan casting thing?
Oh, it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, that was
I don't tune into any of this stuff, so I don't know what the fandom at large wants or is calling.
So much so, I believe she's been asked about it a few times.
Interesting.
It's kind of like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I could do that kind of thing. I mean,
yeah, Millie Bobby Brown is Leia, and Sebastian Stan is Luke.
I mean, that's just a no-brainer at this point.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't Sebastian Stan Luke? I mean, I'll keep this deepfake Luke for as long as they want to give it to me, as long as they can improve the voice aspect. But a full recasting of Sebastian Stan would be okay.
It has gotten better every time, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Alex, the question though is, how tall is Sebastian Stan, and which version of Luke will he play?
We have to do at some point we're gonna have to do like a smaller Luke expose podcast special.
Love it.
Which is gonna require it's like alien conspiracies, but for Star Wars nerds.
Alex, I'm willing to like put together like a crazy like YouTube video, like going through all the different evidences of bigger and smaller Luke.
Nice.
Oh, it's the smaller Luke theory. Sorry, smaller Luke is the converse theory, and that's the minority of these people. It's the bigger Luke theory. You can learn more at biggerluke.wiki.com. Their tagline is your first step into a slightly larger world.
I'm gonna say right now, Alex, I'm
bad, and I love it.
Guy. I think it's smaller Luke, and I'm gonna.
You're in the smaller Luke camp.
I'm gonna. Yeah, plant my flag in the smaller.
Oh man.
I gotta say, speaking of Luke, and it's kind of off the Andor beaten trail, but I feel like they put a lot into the deep fake, and I kind of keep wondering, like, with the amount of money and the commitment they're going for with this, is there a longer plan in place, and is there a bigger project in mind? Because I feel like with the amount they're doing, we're not getting a whole lot. We got like one full episode of Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian 2.5, really, for that episode.
Yeah.
And a couple other places we've had it. Is that all we're getting? I feel like they're putting so much into it. I feel like there's something they're looking for. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I want it even.
Yeah.
But I would actually, gotta be honest with you, I was pulling for the end of Book of Boba Fett. I really thought we were going to get a de-aged Harrison Ford, Han Solo appearing at the end somehow, with everybody coming in, everybody getting all this like money being thrown away. I don't know. I thought that might happen somehow when like a Grover was going to get brought back by Han, maybe, or something like that potentially. Is that just the X-wing? I don't know. But I kind of feel like they're pushing more towards that. I don't know if I like it or not, but we'll have to see.
I think I mean, yeah, like you said, they've invested they've put a lot into it. It's just a question of, do we want this to be the focal point of a show rather than like, look at the fun thing on the side here, and then we're going to draw your attention back to the main thing.
Right.
Absolutely. What to say? But you know what I would do? I don't know. I really want more than anything else, to be completely honest, is I want an animated series that takes place after episode 6. Give me like the big 3: Luke, Han, and Leia, and Chewie.
Yeah.
That's what Alex and I were talking about after Tales of the Jedi. We're like, yeah, let's just, there's no limitations. And then you still have Mark Hamill, who does voice work anyway. So
Mark Hamill, absolutely.
Right. You'll digitally de-age his voice. You'll do it. It
would just be like how Clone Wars enriches the time between 2 and 3. This would enrich the time between 6 and 7, or 6 and Mandalorian even. Yeah. I mean, you could go so many different directions. You could have the Luke and Ben, young Luke and young Ben interactions here, Han and Chewie doing stuff, Lando's daughter getting kidnapped, and that there's so many different areas you can go in, depending on what time frame you use, obviously. But I don't know why it's taken this long to even like. I feel like this should have been discussed a long time ago and gone ahead with. What are we waiting for?
They really should have just put more together in terms of what they were going to do with animated tie-ins and how the sequel trilogy went.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the Bad Batch. I'm having a grand old fun time. Actually, my wife's favorite piece of Star Wars so far, I think right now, might be the Bad Batch, which I find amazing because I don't think I've ever met anybody else who would say that. But that's great. I like that she loves it, and I enjoy it. But let's get some more out there. We can take multiple series at this point. So just always keep it going. Have teams ready to go. You do Bad Batch season. You do a Clone Wars.
Well, this clone Filoni.
Yes,
just clone Dave.
There you go.
Bad Batch were supposed to be airing at the same time. The season 2 was supposed to be the end of September or so, and they're just supposed to be like concurrent.
Yeah.
But
although I'm okay with it spaced out a little bit because I kind of like the idea now. We don't have them going on at the same time. I'm actually happy getting Andor. Now I have something in January that will get me through to Mandalorian or whatever. It's kind of nice always having something Star Wars on. I think that's the way it should be. I feel like some of the movie things have left Lucasfilm cold as far as content goes, because it would be oversaturating, et cetera. I don't think you can really oversaturate as long as it's good. That's the thing, as long as it's good. But you can do so many different things with the Star Wars universe, and sometimes it'll hit, sometimes it'll miss, sometimes it'll be good, sometimes it won't be. But that core audience isn't going anywhere.
I mean, like, look at Star Trek right now. Star Trek's like used to be like nothing, and now it's like they're back on the TV game, and they're making, what is it, like 5 series going right now?
Yeah, something like that. And they got the humor one, the lower decks ones,
2 animated ones, and then Picard, Discovery, Strange New World. Yeah,
I love it. I think that's what we should be emulating at this point, doing that. I mean, just don't be scared, guys. Don't be scared. It's okay. So Solo didn't do so good. It's okay. There's other reasons why. I think they took the wrong lesson from that. That's what I feel like. They took the wrong lesson from that and got scared. Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Let's see what happens. Disney's cutting costs.
Let's make up with Lord and Miller, and let's say, hey, guys, we know we did you dirty with Solo. We want to bring you back, and we want you to do an animated series. We want you to go Clone High on Star Wars.
Boom.
Oh, my God.
Literal Clone High. It's
literal Clone High.
Camino and
I'd be all for it, man.
More work for D. Bradley Baker.
Yeah.
God, what an underrated dude that guy is. Quite frankly, that guy. I mean, when you watch Bad Batch, that's the thing you watch it for. It's like this guy does all those voices, and yet it's all the same voice, and yet it's all distinctively different. Each one is distinctly different.
And also, like, that's amazing. Dude, only with like Star Wars, he's done voice work, but primarily what he's known for prior to like Clone Wars and stuff was doing like animal voices. Like he would do like Appa and the Avatar the Last Airbender, and he would do like growls and like crazy little things. But like with Clone Wars, it was his first opportunity to actually like, I'm gonna act and create characters. And I think he's been really appreciative of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy for him. I'd like to get some more work. Let's do it again. Clone High. Let's do it.
And we did get, a random bit of Star Wars animation this week. There was, because I kind of missed all this in this cycle. So it helped me remember. There was a tweet that hinted that Studio Ghibli was doing a project with Star Wars.
There was.
And there was rampant speculation that there
Mm-hmm.
was like a feature Studio Ghibli Star Wars thing coming. And then what came out instead was this 3-minute short with Grogu and Dust Bunnies that was just kind of like a tone poem that was a
It was.
animated short film.
What a poor marketing decision they made here. Like this was
like the thing was so short, just like release that right out front. Like, hey,
like
we
they're
did this.
Right. Don't tease it.
I honestly, if you just dropped it and said, look, Studio Ghibli and Star Wars is a cute little short, people would have been like, oh, cool, cute little thing. But like that one day we're like, holy shit, we're getting a Studio Ghibli Star Wars. Is it Visions? Is it a full series? Is it just an episode 2? Is it going to be a short? Is it a 2D movie? What are we getting? What are we getting? Oh, we're getting this little Dust Grover and the Dust Bunny thing. Okay.
It's really cute.
Yeah, I had nothing against it. It was very cute. But it's like the thing is like you just drop that and then you tweet after, you go, look, this is some fun little offbeat stuff. And like, oh, that's cute. That would be that would have been the reaction. It'd be, oh, it's cute, it's cool. Instead of like the okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I do wonder, maybe that's just the whetting of the appetite. Maybe there is more that's actually taking place that we don't know about yet or something. Maybe that's the idea. And so I will reserve the right to change my mind if all of a sudden next week there's a fooled you, that was just a little tease. Now we're actually are doing a Studio Ghibli full movie or something. Oh, sure. I'll be okay.
It's a magic trick where they're like, watch this hand while we're getting the other hand. Yeah.
Sleight of hand. Here's the cute Grogu. Over here is everything else. So I don't know.
It was cool. Cute.
I would like to see more of that. Do that with different things. Let the creators, the top-notch creators in animation, in live action, in the world, get them a shot at doing little shorts here and there. Anything that expands the galaxy out is fine by me.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of all the episodes of Visions, but the ones that I liked quite a bit.
Yeah. I want a season 2.
Yeah.
I love season 2. It's fun. I'm not a big anime guy, so the Visions didn't really strike me very much as well. Some of them were good, some of them were okay.
The Visions is weird, and I was talking with this guy I work with, and he's a big anime fan. A huge anime fan, and he likes Star Wars. And I'm like, what did you think of Visions? And he's like, I honestly, like, he got through a few of them and he gave up. He wasn't like into it. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, because it's like you're the core demographic for that. And he's like,
that's the audience.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like my son is really big into anime. Like that's his, animated, but also he's into anime. So I thought it was kind of a nice meeting point for us. So much so that we're kind of going through like tit for tat. Like he's watching Clone Wars with me, and I watched Attack on Titan with him, and we're going back and forth on things, like kind of like helping each other out in a way. But he was okay with it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But he wasn't like over the moon about it. But who knows?
Yeah.
Well, actually giving him the full-on Star Wars watch through. We started with episode 1, episode 2, Clone Wars, going to do the whole kit and caboodle. Chronological order, which is nice seeing it again in that order, like with somebody who hasn't seen a lot of stuff before. Like he watched the movies when he was young.
Sure.
Like doesn't remember a lot of it. He remembers things, bits and pieces of it. So
now you're going to be like, whoa, we got to stop. We got to go back, and you have to watch these 4 episodes of Tales of the Jedi.
That's I decided, I looked at them, okay, we're just about the end of season 3. We have the Citadel arc left, and we have the Padawan Lost, the Ahsoka Lost, those 2 episodes. So 5 episodes left in season 3. So in between season 3 and season 4, I'm gonna go back and do the Dooku arc. I'm gonna save the Ahsoka stuff until I could watch the first Ahsoka episode, but I figure I'll just wait until after Clone Wars is over, because the whole ends of the Ahsoka stuff is, well, first of all, one of them takes place after, and one of them takes place during Clone Wars, but it kind of gives away that
cuts and
that little the ending sequence there. So I want to kind of watch that, and then we'll go back and watch the Ahsoka arc. It is weird though when you're doing things back and forth. It's like, oh, I got to jump back now. I got to jump. Oh god. Oh well. I was hoping to catch up by the time we do Bad Batch. You can actually watch Bad Batch live, but I don't think we're going to make it. We're very slow going on everything. He's too busy.
I get that.
I understand that. Cool. Well, do we have anything more to say about Andor this week?
I don't think so.
I feel like it's funny. Like this was a big episode, but the moments of like the big conversations were all about like some small moments, and a lot of the other stuff was just a lot of action.
Yeah,
which is not a lot to talk about except for saying great action, great kind of great tonal setting. There's not a lot of deep dive into. I will say I did appreciate the feel of it. Like once they actually started getting going, and I love the little moments like when you see the Imperials hiding when the Empire, like the rebel or the prisoners were overrunning the place. And I love we get the fact we get Andor still on that I'm not a good guy mode. I'm just going to kill whoever gets in my way. Like no hesitation. Kind of like everything else, which is cool. But yeah, I do love the idea of the rising of the downtrodden, getting that during his speech, during Andy Serkis' speech, watching all of the prisoners really take hold and like they touch the floor, they feel the floor, the whole thing builds with them, and they start you seeing everybody running. It's a very powerful episode overall.
Yeah.
So that's better. Everything else was just the big speeches and stuff from that point.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy because with the Stellan Skarsgård, the Luthen monologue, which I think it's a toss-up if you ask people what like the high point of the episode is, if it's that or if it's the prison break stuff. Because I feel like in any other episode, like the prison break thing, it'd be like, oh, that's the obvious high point, or it'd be like, oh, that Luthen monologue at the end, that's the obvious like high point. But it's crazy they fit them both in here.
Yeah. It must mean they have something really special planned for the last two episodes, I would think. That's a hope anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going next episode. That's where do we go from here? Again, we don't know. We have no idea, really.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to see Cyril this week.
No, not at all. No cereal.
Just cereal in the cereal. Exactly. Yeah. That's what it is. It is Kix or whatever you had there. Star Wars version of Kix.
Space Cocoa
cereal.
Puffs.
Space Cocoa Puffs.
Chocolate is purple and teal in space.
That's what it is. I love it. At least you have I already have cereal milk. That's what Star Wars milk is, basically cereal milk. So blue milk or whatever. So
yeah. Very creamy.
Yeah, I'm excited though.
Yeah, same.
I'm very excited the next couple of weeks. I think we have some good ones. But yeah, I guess the funny part is we don't have an idea of like where this is going as far as like, because we kind of like knew what the arcs were. Like we knew at the end of 3, there's going to be some kind of mission and heist that they're going to get involved. We knew going into the prison arc is doing this. Now we're kind of like, okay, so all we know is that Marty is not doing good, and we know that Andor and Melshi are together running on a wasteland, and that's it. And there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, find out.
Yeah.
I guess I think we kind of have to end the season with a Luthen and Andor.
Like meeting back.
Yeah.
Up.
Right. I think it's got to end that way. Right? It finally catches up to him somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and whoever, maybe. By the way, speaking of, I think this happened last episode too, but I was surprised again getting that idea that Mon Mothma's cousin was Vel.
Mm-hmm.
I went, oh, that's how this is connecting there.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So we get to see more of her, I hope, because I do like her as well. Speaking of Game of Thrones, the waif character there.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Her and Anton Lesser, who
yes,
he's Game of Thrones.
That's right. That's right.
He's the mischievous Maester Qyburn.
Yes, that's right. That's right. God, I forgot about that. I really forgot about that. That's right. Good stuff. Also, the one in the death of, I don't know if you guys recognize, I'm sure you did. You probably did. I love the fact that the older guy in the prison who died is the same guy that was in Batman 1989.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the top of the roof. The guy forgets I'm Batman too. I love that as well.
Yep.
I didn't, I first saw him like, that's that guy. I thought he was, I passed a long time ago. All right, cool. Good. He's still alive and kicking. All right.
Oh, that just makes me think,
Really
like,
enjoyed
speaking
that.
of like Batman actors, rest in
Yeah.
peace, Kevin Conroy, who
Yes, rest in peace.
passed away this week.
Yeah.
Many people's true Batman for many people.
Mm-hmm.
I still love going back and watching him. It's on YouTube. Watching him do the end of The Dark Knight. He gives the speech
Oh,
that he gives to
yes.
Gordon.
Oh.
It's like
For
him
that.
doing that speech, whatever. So good. I'm like, oh, that's so good. And I like Christian Bale, but I'm like, that was so good.
Yeah. Really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thus is life. Thus is life.
I just ended the show on a downer now.
It's okay.
Isn't Andor a downer anyway? Basically, that's
Yeah,
what we're
Yeah,
on
Andor's
brand.
a downer show.
On brand.
And we have a bunch of people that made Black Mirror working on Star Wars. I mean, what would we expect?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
All right.
All right. So,
Well,
next week, yeah?
Yeah. Until next week, PLD, where can people find you and your work?
Oh, at Paul_Denuzzi on Twitter and on YouTube at PLD Projects. Also, wherever you find like Spotify and any audio podcasts, PLD Project Network. I have 3 basic podcasts I work on right now. One's called Class Action, where it's just myself, Maddie Gunner, Richard Eric Jarvie. We basically take 2 things like actors versus actors or film versus film, put them up against each other with some custom-made categories and let them duke it out and figure out which one wins, which is fun. I also have a podcast with PJ Campbell. We call ourselves the 2 mediocre white dudes on film. We are doing The Shining and Dr. Sleep, a duo. This week we're doing Dr. Sleep, should come out on Thursday. I believe we're going to shoot for. That should be a fun episode. And finally, I also do my Queen podcast, Crown Jewels, A Journey Through Queen, where I go through every track in the Queen catalog and figure out which version of the song is the crown jewel of that song. So that's where you find it.
That's cool.
Very nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sweet. And Alex, how about you?
You can find out what I'm watching at letterboxd.com/Reverend Beastly. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to be on Twitter after another couple weeks. It's going to hang around until the fire really reduces to ashes. And otherwise, probably just on this podcast. Or hire me to work as a focus puller on your next project at abrunel.com.
Yeah. All right. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm staying on till the bitter end. I'm going down with the ship, Titanic style. And at Travis Fishburne, you can find the show at Who Watches Pod. You can reach the show at whowatchespodcast@gmail.com. And so I think with all of that, until next time, stay fat and satisfied.
So fat and satisfied.
I feel seen.
That line was spoken by another Game of Thrones actor.
Very true. So Bill. Excellent.
Yeah.
That was very fun. Good show.
Oh,
guys.
we should do the sing clap.